Hello and welcome to Better Body Movement. This class is designed to help you start feeling well.
I have less pain, literally eliminate that pain.
I just feel better.
I can tell that my posture is changing.
Bright light in the day when we've done our workouts online.
Makes me feel so good about myself.
For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds. Then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all the way back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the plantar interossei. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot. For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds. Then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all the way back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the plantar interossei. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot. For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial.
All right, we got a little extra on some foot plantar fasciitis stuff. Been working with Lois trying to really help her out. So we're going to get started kind of quick. So our dedicates have not changed, so I'm not going to just go through each and every one of those. If you want to know more details, you can look at yesterday's video. It's got everything on there. But they will be across the top of our video, so maybe in between breaks, remember to rededicate those individuals in prayer. Our verse of the day: a man of quick temper acts foolishly, and a man of evil devises... and a man of evil devices is hated. Proverbs 14:17. So typically when we do bad things to other people, they don't like us. Just imagine that. Imagine that. But yeah, quick temper usually ends up leading us to about the worst quick temper I ever saw in my life was at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine when we were going through our adoption process. We had to get paperwork done. This really stupid, arrogant American is standing there pounding on a bulletproof glass window, screaming at the woman behind the counter how stupid she is. Yeah, if that were me, I would hope someone punched me in the face. But I seriously was sitting there going, this is why people think Americans are arrogant pricks. Like, this is a problem. But yeah, I couldn't believe that. But that quick temper just made him look like a total insane lunatic. Like, and it was worthless because he got nothing accomplished anyway by losing his temper. Like, no one's going to help you more because you freak out on them, right? Like, I find that with customer service all the time. Hey, how are you, Joy? I'm so excited that you can help me today. This is the problem that I'm having, and I can't wait to hear what you can do to help, right? Versus calling right away, customer service, your piece of crap business didn't make my piece the right way, and now I'm ticked off. Okay, good for you. Like, right? That never helps anyone. So quick tempers, no good. All right, let's jump into our workout. So core day, go ahead and get set onto the floor. Remember, on core day, we want to compress that core as hard as possible. So Kegel, right? So that base, that foundation should be nice and tight. And then compress that core really firm, okay? Awesome, awesome. You should be able to comment today. I took the, I changed the setting for the video being made for kids, so you should be able to actually comment as you join in. Absolutely love seeing you guys in here. Thank you for joining. We're gonna do some really good core work today, okay? So again, if you need to even, take your hand and put it under the small of your back, okay? Right here. Right above that belt line. And then you're trying to compress your low back and squish your hand underneath there, okay? That's the whole point of core or spinal stability, is that we get the spine into a nice alignment and hold it there, okay? The core should be doing the work. And if you're doing that right, I should be able to step on you. Yay! Only good thoughts this morning, good thoughts.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out. 3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, tilt with fall out. So again, remember, compress your core as hard as you possibly can. Right? And again, that is midsection, right? Tight, tight, tight. Brace your spine all the way onto the floor. So put that Dorito under there and crush it, right? Hold the core nice and tight. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever gone here before, but you know,
That's halfway.
think that compression's like taking a poop, right? Except we're holding our Kegel tight, so we don't actually have any problems with that, right? So we're gonna hold both really firm. So it's creating this compressive force from the bottom and the top and the sides to hold and brace your spine. So that's where we lock into place that low back. Is compress that core, then create your movements out in.
Prepare for pelvic tilt
and
with
down.
abduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction. So again, compress that core really, really tight.
3,
Squeeze your knees together.
1. Pelvic tilt with abduction.
Compress, compress, compress. Again, doing your absolute best. Squeeze tight, core firm. And again, we want to rest those shoulders back, down and back onto the floor. But very distinct in your movements, right? Kegel core compression happen, the core's crushing your back against the floor. Squeeze your knees, release your knees, keep your core tight. You should still be crushing the Dorito. Then let go of the Dorito, let that core go so you can relax and then redo that, right? Kegel core compression, squeeze the knees, release the knees, and then move on, okay?
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Tilt with knee toward chest. So again, this is that march. So you're trying to get the core tight and don't let the hips shift left and right, or the pelvis, right? We don't want the bowl going left and right. You want to hold and brace that spine super, super tight while you create that movement, okay? Because it's all about how do we get the core compression to stabilize the spine while we articulate or create movement in the joint of the hip, okay? Very, very important. Okay, do your best all the way through, compressing tight, tight, tight.
That's halfway.
So kind of fun. Got some picture updates of the company that's putting together my product. So I'm excited to share those. Making progress. Hey. That's what I like to see.
3, 2, 1.
Good, good,
Prepare
good.
for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, tilt with bridge.
Three.
Again, compress your core,
Pelvic tilt with bridge.
and there should be no change in your spine here. So this is one of the big ones too for you, Lois. We don't want the back to be doing any of this when you lift, right? The vertebrae shouldn't be moving. So you pin in place, then squeeze your butt cheeks and lift, right? If you return to the floor and your low back is off the ground, that's because you went too far or your back wasn't stabilized when you went up. So your butt, your low back, and your ribs should return to the floor all at the same time. Okay,
That's
so if it's
halfway.
not doing that, check it, right? Figure out as you're lifting, what's letting go, what's moving. Why is my low back arching rather than staying tight and firm through the extension? Okay, because what we don't want is to create a pattern where every time we stand up, right, our butt is twerking up to get us there, right? Because if we're doing hip extension, I want to actually drive my hips down and
one.
through, tuck the
Prepare for
pelvis,
shoulder drops.
and squeeze really tight. Okay, shoulder drops. So again, remember on this, we're stabilizing the shoulders down and back out of the
One.
ears.
Shoulder drop.
So even if you need to, if you can't get this part of your shoulder, right, the back side of your shoulder, all the way to the ground and down away from your ears, you might just practice that before your arms go up overhead. That's a pretty complex movement, actually, because as you go up, it's a relaxation. As you come down, you're actually trying to return your shoulders back, down, and back. I don't want to be in a position where my shoulder's forward, because then if I put some sort of pressure on this, my shoulder is the thing that's moving, right? Rather than my arm creating or generating the impulse. Right? The shoulder should be stable before we create any sort of impulse that transitions or distributes force through the arm. And we do that all day. Every door we open and close. Push, pull. Every shopping cart that we move.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for dead bug.
Perhaps every time your husband gets too close. Wait.
3.
All right, here we go.
2, 1. Dead bug.
Remember, with dead bugs, I do want you to try and compress your core so tight that low back doesn't leave the floor. If you go to extend your leg and your low back pops up off the floor, you're extending too far. Do not let that happen. That is core weakness. So you have to train that to get tight by just shortening the distance your leg travels, right? You don't have to get to the floor. You can just go almost straight up to the ceiling if you need to. But whatever it is keep the core tight through the entire movement. Good, good, good. Again, core compressed, squeeze tight.
3, 2, 1. Long rest.
Awesome. Very good work. Very, very good. Okay, we have 2 more rounds, okay? So to really increase or intensify how much core activation we truly get out of this, I don't want it to be a passive or even just a thought process of getting the low back down. I want to add a little bit of a foot raise, right? So we're going to take 50% of the weight off the feet while you keep your core tight, okay? So what that's going to do is it's going to force your core to get even tighter, because as you activate the hip flexors, it's going to pull on your spine, trying to lift it off the floor. Don't let it happen.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
Okay, this is a great place to practice. And again, your feet should not even leave the floor. Okay, this is simply create a little bit of pressure like you're lifting your feet.
3,
So
2, 1.
hips are trying to pull the
Pelvic
knees
tilt.
towards the chest. Okay, sometimes we need to get the thought process off the feet and more towards the knees, right? You're gently pulling the knees towards the chest, but do not let your low back change. Okay, again, if you need to, put your hand under the small of your back. Make sure there's no change. You should be crushing your hand as hard as possible. Okay? So again, same thing here. So I don't think go to your pelvic tilt.
That's halfway.
Good. Does that feel a little different?
Yeah.
Okay, so go for that. Okay, go for that compression. And again, you don't have to worry about actually getting the feet off the floor. Right now, it's just that challenge of, can I keep my low back? Yeah, so there was too much change there for me.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going
3,
to try to avoid.
2,
Keep that pelvic tilt
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt
Press
with knee
that
fall
core,
out.
and then gently start peeling both feet. If it starts to lift off the floor, that's fine. Set your feet back down, right? Set your feet back down. Reset.
3, 2,
Put your core flat
1.
against the ground.
Pelvic
Then
tilt with
gently,
knee
gently,
fall
gently
out.
start to lift both. If your core stays, awesome. If not, don't worry about it, okay? Because if it's not staying, it doesn't do you any good to lift the feet all the way up. Because we want to reiterate staying tight over how high we can. Okay? Knee fallout, same thing. Core compressed, hard, hard, hard. Firmly squeeze with as much pressure as you can. As the knee goes out to the side, you're recompressing that core. Pelvis should not shift like a bowl that gets tipped over, right? Don't let the water spill. Core compressed, tight, tight, tight. Knee goes out to the side, squeeze back up. firm compression. Hold tight.
3, 2,
Good,
1.
good, good.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with abduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction. So grab that foam roller. Remember, re-squeeze the core as hard as you possibly
3,
can.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with abduction.
Good. Core compressed, nice and tight. Squeeze those knees, release the knees, then release the core. Okay, and we can also add that pulling the knees up, right? So core compressed, nice and tight, squeeze your knees gently, 50% of the weight off your feet. Make sure your spine stays down. Set your
That's
feet back
halfway.
down. Release the knees, then release the core. Okay, again, we're always going right back to how do I keep the core compressed? Okay? And another great way to check your core is do a little sit-up right now, right? Lift your shoulders up off the ground like you're trying to sit up all the way. If your core changed, right, that's a problem. That means we weren't squeezing as hard as we possibly could have.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
So pause right there, Ross. Pause there. Now think shoulders to the ceiling even more.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Really hard. So when you do that little crunch and you bring your ribs down and compress, it's how do we keep most of that compression while the shoulders are down and back. It's really, really tough to do. Okay, good squeezes. Compressing firm. Tight, tight, tight.
That's halfway.
This one's towards chest, sorry. March, yep. So marching those feet, so that opposite foot, right, light on the floor, working through it. Squeeze that core to compress really, really tight.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Good. Tilt and bridge. So again, core compressed, then squeeze the butt cheeks together. Right?
3,
You're not doing a
2,
core or
1.
pelvic tilt through the
Pelvic
butt.
tilt with bridge.
I don't want your cheeks doing the work to start, right? Your core should be compressed first, set back down. See if your back touches the ground at the same time as everything else. That's where you're going to see the difference, see the change. Right? Is if you can get everything to settle back down on the ground just as it is. Okay? Very good. Tight squeezes, good core compression. Firm,
That's
firm, firm.
halfway.
And as much squeeze as you can get. Firm compression. Again, don't let that spine shift and move and torque on the ground. We want to hold that compression as tight as possible through
3,
the lift.
2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Because there is nothing else more important than core compression today, right? There's no movement, there's no range of motion. None of that matters today.
2,
What matters is
1.
how you compress the
Shoulder
core.
drop.
Kind of why we call it core day. Right? So that's just to say, yes, we're trying to create movement, but we're trying to create movement while we teach the body or the brain how to contract the core simultaneously. Right? So when you're making movement throughout the day, you can contract that core, hold it really firm and tight through the entire duration of that movement.
That's halfway.
Okay? Firm compression, squeeze nice and tight. Good squeeze, tight, tight, tight. Very good.
3,
Get
2,
shoulder blades down,
1.
back, down, back, down,
Prepare
back.
for dead bug.
Awesome. Okay, get ready for the bed bugs. Or you can do bird dogs, okay? I'll show you guys the bird dogs here. Main thing is when we set up, don't
3,
cat or cow
2,
your spine. We
1.
want to create a nice
Dead
firm
bug.
compression, holding that spine firm. And again, I'm not going to overextend my leg or my arms, compensating through the back to try to get more extension, right? I'm only going to go as far there as I can, holding the core tight, and then get my extension, okay? I do not sacrifice my core just to try to get more out of the movement, right? Keep the core tight, 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 right? Your dead bugs, make sure that low back stays
That's
pinned
halfway.
to the floor as hard as you possibly can, right? Firm squeeze, ladies, almost there. 20 seconds. Again, doing your best through the movement. Core compression as hard as you possibly can. Reset those shoulders, pull them down and back. Your lats should be working, holding your shoulders in place. Firm
3,
compression.
2, 1. Long rest.
Very good. Okay, we are going to do one more round, then we're done. For the last round, the challenge, right, the goal is to lift or hover your feet just 1 inch off the ground while we create any one of these movements. Okay, so you're going to do Kegel core compression, lift the feet just for 1 to 2 seconds, set the feet down, keeping the core tight, then you can release your core. And as a reminder, if you have not yet, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us continue this work and getting this on
3,
the
2,
YouTube channel
1.
here.
Prepare for pelvic tilt.
And liking videos is always helpful. Please leave comments for questions, anything that you would be curious or wondering why would we do it a certain way, or even just to
3,
say how to live.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, here we go. Good, tight pelvic tilts. Doing your absolute best every single time, right? Core tight, compress, crush the Dorito under the spine. Hover the feet. If you can't hover the feet and keep the low back down, get rid of hovering the feet, right? I would rather you keep your low back on the ground, okay? Because sometimes we think, oh, I have to really challenge myself, so I have to lift my feet up. But if you lift your feet up and your spine leaves the ground and you arch your back, you're training your body to do the wrong thing, right? It's not for the sake of creating the lift, it's for the sake of keeping your core compressed and your spine braced. Okay, so brace that spine, create good compression, then lift the feet. And do a challenge that works to your ability level. So if you have to go back to lifting 50% of the weight, do that. If right now you just can't even lift your feet
3,
at all, that's fine.
2,
Just make
1.
sure your core is
Prepare
compressed.
for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, another really cool cool way to do this one.
3,
Compress your core
2,
with
1.
a
Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
with like a belt, or maybe even one of these bands, right? A belt or a band. Put that underneath your low back, and then pin it to the ground, and then see if you can pull it out. Right? If you can just pull the belt right out, you know your spine's not flat to the floor. Right? So try to get rid of that arch in the back. That's why we do this with our knees bent. Helps to kind of calibrate the hips in a position where you can get that
That's
low back to
halfway.
the floor. Okay, very good. Again, strong core compression. Squeeze those shoulder blades down and back, doing your absolute best all the way through. Tight compression, tight compression. Squeeze firm. Okay. As your knee goes out to the side, you should be recompressing your core. Your pelvic bowl shouldn't be spilling water.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Awesome. Tilt with the adduction. So grab your foam roller or a cushion, pillow, whatever you've got at home. Remember, 6-step process. Core tight, squeeze the knees, lift the feet,
3,
set the feet,
2,
release the knees,
1.
release the core.
Pelvic tilt with adduction.
So do that together here. Core tight, squeeze those knees, Hover the feet, keep the core, set the feet down, keep the core, release the knees, keep the core, then release the core. Okay? Very, very distinct in every single movement that you make. It should be hard. This should not be an easy task.
See you later.
Okay? Very good. Again, core compressed, as firm as you can possibly get it, holding it nice and tight. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Very good.
Three, two,
Good.
one. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Very good. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest. So again, we're going to march those feet. Don't push down with your opposite foot, trying to pick up stability.
Two,
All
one.
the stability comes
Pelvic
from the
tilt
core.
with knee toward chest.
Good, firm squeeze, core compressed. Especially as your foot goes back down. That's where I typically find your core wants to relax, is as the foot's going down, because that's relaxing your hip flexor. So your brain might be very well saying, oh, if you're relaxing your hip flexor, you should relax your core simultaneously, right? And that's bad because, again, that hip flexor is going to take and it's going to torque on
That's
your
not
back
right.
and create a pelvic tilt in the wrong direction, right? So we want to be able to release the hip flexor while the core stays compressed. Firm, firm squeeze, doing your absolute best all the way through. You've got this, ladies. 15 seconds. Again, doing your absolute best all the way through. Do not let up. Relentless.
3, 2, 1.
Very good.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Awesome. Okay, tilt and bridge. So back into the bridge where we squeeze the butt cheeks as tight as we possibly can. But again, do not articulate through the spine. That should be a solid piece of steel.
2,
Lift up, set
1.
down.
Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Again, what you're looking for is when you return to the floor, is your low back arched off the ground, right? If it is, we know we lost the core, okay, because the spines began to arch. Hold, compress, firm, squeeze those butt cheeks together nice and tight. That's right. Probably the most you'll ever hear the term butt in your life is in this class. I'm okay with that.
That's halfway.
Unless you have teenagers, then you hear butt all the time. Butt down. Actually, we have a saying in our household. The only thing that comes after a butt is poo. So don't ever use the term butt, because I know everything that comes out of your mouth next is crap. Stops them quick.
3, 2,
But.
one.
Nope, there are no
Prepare for
butts.
shoulder drops.
Butts sit on the toilet and produce poo. Okay, shoulder drops.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Okay, again, remember, start with your shoulder blades pinched down and back. So think that bra strap area down here. Okay? You want to pull the shoulder blades down to the center. Pull them down and back. Sometimes you even have to walk your shoulders down the floor just to get them in place. Then compress your core and hold those shoulders down and back. This
That's
typically
not
is
right.
where you're going to find your postural issues with your shoulder. Why they stay forward, right? Is because if we squeeze the core and your shoulders automatically roll forward, it's because you're super, super tight on the front side of your chest, because it pulls your shoulders down with the ribs. Or if I lift my ribs or take my shoulders back, it pulls my rib cage up, right? So we want to start learning, how do I
3,
keep my core compressed
2,
ribs down
1.
and
Prepare for
create
dead
a
dog.
stretch through that position and return. Okay, so all of that still applies. Same thing with the shoulders, going through your dead bug. Compress the core, making sure the spine is flat
3,
to the floor,
2,
as hard as you possibly
Dead
can.
bug.
Okay, last one, ladies. Last one. I want your absolute best all the way through. Squeeze that core tight. Remember, if you're doing bird dogs, make sure you hold and compress that spine really, really tight. I don't want to see any sort of shift or movement in the spine. If you overextend on either one of these, your spine will start to bend. Hold it tight. I don't care how far you're moving. I care how tight your core stays.
That's halfway.
Very good, ladies. Again, do your absolute best. If you need a small break, take it. That's fine. But then get right back into it. Re-squeeze. Recompress that core. Right? The really wicked Shay is going to have a steel toe boot one of these times and get you right in the stomach. Tight. All the way through. All the way through. 7 seconds. Do not short yourself. Finish strong.
3, 2, 1. Long rest.
Not me. All right, very, very good work, ladies. So glad you could join us this morning. Remember, if you finished, I'm getting really curious about this. If you finished the workout, just leave a comment that says finished. I'm getting curious how many people actually are getting all the way through these exercises. So it would be a great way for me to check in on that and just see. Appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to make sure you're adding better body movement to your day. Remember our friends here in your prayers throughout the day. If you can, that would be absolutely fantastic. And don't go have a quick temper because then you'll act foolishly. Have a blessed day. I will see you guys again tomorrow for our total body day. As always, I am here to help you move well so you live well.
For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds. Then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all the way back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the plantar interossei. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot.
In the first 24 hours, then we can just get it done and place the order.